Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlinson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Today on the Focus on Why podcast, I am joined by Atish Parmar. Atish, welcome.
Yeah, Amy, thank you very much for having me on or having me as a guest. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Well, you reached out and said, let's talk about podcasting. We're both podcast hosts. So here we are talking about today, the why.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I got in touch because you've always been, in the last year, I keep seeing Amy all over my Explorer or somewhere within Instagram, and found out that we've got a lot of interested parties in the same field, and it came down to property. And after listening to a couple of episodes, I thought, right, is my story something worth to shout about? And I've come to think of it as, yes, my story is always shout about, whether it's fun for no one or fun for everyone. I think it's always good to tell your story because there's someone that's always in the mix of it and might want to hear my side to it and think, okay, I can learn something from someone else's example. So yeah, hence why I said I thought it'd be good to have me on as a guest.
And it's so true, because we always sort of devalue our own story because we're in it and we don't see the value externally that others may get from it. So because we've lived through all of the different challenges and all of the different benefits, we don't necessarily see it from a different perspective. So by sharing that and other people hearing what it is you're sharing today, there will be value, there'll be huge value. And even if there's one piece of information that makes someone think, oh, Atish said that, and that's really got me thinking. That is the purpose of this podcast, is to get people thinking and then taking action on the basis of that.
Yeah, and it's so true. And I only started to think this about 2 years ago when I kind of switched my Instagram profile to not private and started to tell my story. And more people were thinking, oh, I wish someone did tell us about this, or yes, I'm going through that. And I thought, okay, there's so many people interested. Hence why I started my own podcast, and the topics were boring in my eyes, but the downloads said a different story. So yeah, it's always, I totally agree with that.
So share, what is it your podcast is about?
So it's the social connection podcast. So what we put three elements to it. And it's discussing social media, which is a social. I own a social media marketing agency, and it's to discuss top topics on social media and the vision of an entrepreneur. So we are trying to create a community where more entrepreneurs are telling people about the boring side, the hard parts to business, rather than the flash things, what you see on social media. So we need to inform the younger generation that this is what it takes to become that final picture that everybody keeps showing. And then it encourages more people, more young people to know what entrepreneurship is all about, how to use social media the right way. And sometimes I kind of go off topic. I mean, I'm having a guest who we've had a break because we're going through a rebrand with Metric Connect. But my first guest on that's going to be in a couple of weeks' time is going to be my mum, because she inspired me to go into business, which I'll touch base on. But I think if I give your audience just a bit of background for my last 15 years, so they get a bit of a picture of what I'm about, where I've been and where I am today, and where I see my vision, I think that would be great. So I'm a university dropout. I had the ambitions of doing something in real estate management, going down to London, having the bachelor life, and didn't think after that of what the plan should be. During that time, I wasn't really doing well at university, and it was a case where the party life was better than the educational life. And whilst that was happening, my mum she was thinking of quitting her job, working for Leicester, which is now Santander, and she bought a couple of properties for myself and my sister, who used to study in Sheffield, and the property management wasn't great, and she said, I can do a better job. So from that, she launched her letting agency, and the computer element to it, the right moves and property finder, which is now called Zoopla, she couldn't get her head around. And I said, well, why don't I upload these pictures for you? And that's it. Don't do my head in, pretty much. So I used to take it on a USB stick back to the library in Sheffield Hallam University and upload the properties she was getting on Rightmove. And I used to check the stats for her, and I think, wow, this is amazing. And going back to it, I was more involved. Every week I was going by, and a time came where I said to my mum, look, I'm actually loving what you're doing. Can I help you full time? And the barrier was my father, because I didn't want to tell him that I'm going to be leaving university. So 2 months on, and she said, right, if you're going to give me the full concentration to actually help me on my business, let's do it. So I took the challenge, and that was in 2006, and we fast forward, let's say 12 years, we became the best letting agencies as part of Esther's in the East Midlands. We sold in 2018, managing around 300 properties, and it was a successful business. And from that's where I got the business element of, right, I really want to get into business. I really love the business side of things. However, the element of tenants and the drawbacks of being a managing agent was not what I wanted, or I kind of felt that I can do much more. So we sold the business, and I luckily had a year off, and I wanted to do something where I get my own time, I get to help people, because there were small elements to my life where I think, because everybody wants to find their why, but I kept thinking to myself, my why was the cars, the girl, and the house. And when you fast forward, when you look at things, it wasn't that. And when I had a year break, I said to my wife, "Look, right, what are we going to do next to make a less stressful kind of day to day?" Because my letting agency I found it very stressful. Hence why we sold up. And my main thing was, if I help another business, that's where I find I'm going to be more valuable to somebody else. So as some parts of my estate agency, the best thing what we were doing is our online marketing was amazing. So we were ranked top on Google without paying anybody. Our photos were amazing, and we were 2 steps ahead of the competition all the time. And when I actually sold the estate agency, most of the competitors that were in Leicester, they've kind of said, could you do some consultation for us? Because we want to be where you were when you left. And I kind of said to my wife, right, we need to do a business where we're helping other businesses by what I already know. So we formed Metric Connect, which is a social media marketing agency, which is what I'm doing today. So that's where the business side of where I come from. But the reason why I wanted to get in touch with you and find out what is the real why, I got this question. I had this question asked to me in January last year, 2020, because I was going through a body transformation, and I responded to say my why is my wife and my kids. And no one ever asked me the question of no, because everybody says that, and that's everybody's why. And my kind of take on it was, right, I need to think deeper than this, because is that really my why, or what is it? And where I see myself happy, where not financially or not materialistic, is when I'm helping another person. And recently, I've been lucky enough to give talks to a university. And when I'm giving the information of go down the entrepreneur route, or property is good to have as a side hustle, or income wise, and I can do it because I don't have a degree. I've probably got one GCSE. If I'm showing that caliber to people that are struggling, I kind of it all changed, and I thought, wow, this part of me, this is where I'm flowing, and where I kind of don't need to think about anything, and my why is pretty much about helping another person. So that's where I wanted to kind of talk to you about, right? Why is that my why? So yeah, that's from that's where I've come from as of today.
Yeah, and it's a really common one that people think that, the happiness is the sort of the expectation that they'll get when they have all these things, and what they don't realize is that that's not how happiness works. But fulfillment is where you do help other people, when you think bigger than just your own sort of circle or your own immediate environment. And it's very common to sink into that whole process and societal way that it's worked before, to get on that treadmill and then realize that they're not actually looking at what they want. They're just sort of in this pursuit of all sorts of things, but they don't understand why or what they're doing. So not many people do what you did, which is just sort of stop and reflect. And maybe it was the body transformation. Do you think that was the key moment for you?
The body transformation did many wonders for me, because it came at a time where I took it on prior to going into lockdown, and I think I needed to kind of get the wires in a line, because I felt they were tangled. Because when it comes down to doing the right thing for yourself, for your family, to then it blossom financially, and more being more healthier, then yeah, I could say that element was true. But the best thing about it was the actual question that was asked: what is your why? And having the instant response without me thinking deep down for it was wrong. But what it did then do is I just kept thinking about it. So what is my real why? And the best thing about the question is keep asking that same question, because that's when it has the domino, it has that effect. And then you really dive deep down. Now, I've been here where I'm sitting in my home office and been looking at this lounge window, and I always go down that route. And since I've been helping people, I know that helping other people is where I love it, because initially you see their response. Then you see how you've helped someone change their small thing in life, which has helped them. And the appreciation people give you for something that you've not charged for or you've not accounted for, it has a snowball effect. And this is what's happening now. I had a call last week, and a lady said to me, right, you've helped me out so much. It's not a case where it was my digital marketing or social media marketing agency. It was to do with the property knowledge that I have. And I said to her, to be fair, I want to show me in a year's time that you've actually listened to some of the issues that I've had, and you're not redoing them, and let me know how it goes. And for that reason, it just gives me that backing to say, right, I want to do this all the time. And I am. When I'm giving my talks, I do it for free. And the response that I do get on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook is amazing. And when I look at that and then go back into work mode on a laptop, that it's like filling your car up with a full tank and you're ready to go for a longer time.
And it's interesting you say that you have to keep going to the root cause, because when you ask the first question you ask as a why, and you get an immediate response, you say, well, why is that important? And then you get to the next level, and it is a case of the whole sort of root cause, the 5 whys process. Sometimes it's even more. It could be 9 or 10 or 12 whys before you actually get to the real meaning behind what you're doing. Did you ever do your values or your sort of key strengths exercises to understand more about how they work with what you're doing?
No, but I'm listening to more of your podcast. Yeah, I've started to kind of evolve it, and I'm not just saying that. I am a listener, so it does give you some foundations to then evolve around it. But no, I'm learning as I'm going. But when you're in this ecosystem of finding it out, you do see the similar characters, similar people, and I feel that I don't know. It's like walking into a room and you know that one other person in a public place. So no, I'm actually learning. But the more I feel that I'm concentrating on it, I do see the benefits of it, and yeah, then you're thinking completely different. My brain is not thinking what I used to think when I was an estate agent 10 years ago. The targets and dreams that are kind of have shifted, and not for the just doing it for somebody else, or doing it for just your family, but doing it for your life and the way it's working. And I feel that it does. The shackles are off, and you feel more comfortable and going for it once you start digging deeper. Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that you're starting to question and ask yourself these sort of various different questions yourself. And it is something that's quite common when you get to this point in life. And I talk about it. I think I'm a bit older than you, but I talk about midlife beginnings and how absolutely empowering they can be. And it's not a case of you get to your sort of 40s and you go, what am I going to do with my life? It's more a case of, wow, what am I going to do now? Because I've got all of this experience and I've got all of these transferable skills. So where am I going to direct them that is going to be of benefit to more people? And that's that transition of focusing on sort of building up your own sort of security in your own world. And then you sort of turn that over and you realize, well, there's much more to this. This is actually quite superficial. How can I help more people? And that's definitely where I've been, and on that journey for me in the last sort of 5-6 years particularly. And I love it. I mean, it's just been transformational, and that's where I help so many others with their midlife beginnings. And I was hesitant last year. I was going to call this podcast Midlife Beginnings. I even bought the URL because I was so passionate about empowering other people in that sort of that time of their life. But I felt that the message was big. The focus on why is for everybody. It's, focus on why you do what you do. And it does not just for the midlifers, but that tends to be the majority of the people who I'm working with from a client basis. But I spoke to a few friends who are in their early 20s, and they were just like, no, it's got to, keep the broader perspective. And you know what it's like in marketing, go niche, right? So I was really push-pull between what do I do here? Do I go really niche and just have a specific market? But no, I kept with the focus on why. And I'm so glad I did, because when I talk to guests on the show, such as you, it's a case of, it's such a big topic, but it brings in, and it's a big question. It's one of the smallest questions in the world, right? It's 3 letters, but it is, but it is so valid, and it's brought together so many people and just engaged in conversations. So now I do have my sort of target market, but also I'm speaking to people from all walks of life at all ages and at all stages. So
when you do say that, it's like a next phase to life, or the next chapter. And where you say, oh, you're helping people, I feel right now that I'm ready to go 100% in. But don't get me wrong, I don't think, I mean, no one's a finished product, and I don't think we're ever going to get to that. But there's so many people on social media that are showing the ways of what they've become. And what I want to kind of say is, I'm not there yet. I know I'll get there. However, this is the middle part of me, and I want to tell people, right, I've accomplished this much. I feel like I've just opened this massive door and I'm looking out of it. I've not walked out just yet. And what I've got in mind for the next 5 years is going to be much more than what I've done in my past 15 years of business. But yeah, it's a case where I'm ready to run, and it's all to do with the way my life and how I want it to be. But the total opposite of that spectrum is I'm doing it for somebody else, where it's just going to repay me in whatever format.
And I love that reversal of this sort of centricity of what's happening for you, that you have seen the picture, but you understand that the mission will achieve your own vision. So it's, that's my sort of perception, is that actually, it's not about me getting, the numbers I want to earn the income I want. It's about helping and achieving the mission of helping people who are unfulfilled in life become fulfilled and find their life purpose. And for me to sort of, and there's huge numbers of people out there who are existing, not living. So that's my target. And as a result, obviously, then I am attracting people to come and work with me or listen to the podcast and find their beginnings. But you're absolutely right. Understanding and being vulnerable and sharing that you are at a space where you're starting again. And you realize that actually that's not for me. And you did it early on, actually, Atish. You called it early at university. This is not for me. And you didn't just stick it out for other people. You did what was right for you and what was better for more people at that point. So you do have that trait in you already.
Yeah. I think I'm more of a risk taker but didn't know about it, or I was a silly fool and I would have made a massive mistake. But look what's happened. So your instinct you do have to follow your instinct, and you do have to be selfish sometimes to then be more risk adverse. But just what I was going to touch more on is when I for my clients, for the social media marketing agencies I do, I had this fundamental rule that I have to over deliver. And what I was getting back was too many loads of positives from each of my clients. So I thought, right, if I over deliver in life, do you think that's going to happen in the same way? And over delivering in life, I'm talking about, right, let's finish off that job, or let's help that person, but then follow up, or let's do this task and think of something to enhance our workflow or something. So this is all in the bubble of my life rather than the agency. And I feel if the more and more I'm starting to learn on that over delivering in life, I feel like the benefits, hopefully the seeds are put in there, and the benefits are definitely going to be exactly what the clients are showing us. So that was one thing I wanted to put out for people, is about over delivering, and then see how we can do certain tasks in our lifestyle to then be more beneficial for all of us in the long run.
There's a couple of things I just want to sort of pick up on there. One, yes, over delivering in life, and it's all connected. How you do one thing is how you do everything, right? How you show up in one place is how you show up in other places, and having that understanding and bringing your authentic self into those spaces is absolutely the best way. You mentioned that it was selfish. There was a decision that you made that you felt might have been selfish. I want to discern a difference between what could be perceived as selfish or what is self-love, and what is right for you.
So, okay, all right, I like that question. So I think it was selfish of me to forget what my family's thoughts were in actually finishing off my university career. So it was, I kept failing every year, and I had a way with words with the teacher to let me on the year after, and I thought, I was dreaming about not finishing and stuff, and I knew that's what was going to happen. So there was on one hand there was being ashamed within the family and not getting that degree when all my friends and family have. I think I'm the only person I knew at that time that didn't have a degree at that time, and then I thought, right, what? Who cares? Like I mean, you do hear that a lot about. We didn't have Instagram and Facebook, and when I 15 years ago, 16 years ago, when I was 21, and there's so much stuff that we can learn now that wasn't there then, and you always wanted to hear someone say that to then do it. So I didn't have anybody saying like, no, why don't you quit university? But the selfishness then gave my life. It gave me all the opportunities to now, out of the friend circles that I have, I'm probably one out of three that run their own business. And I kind of preach to so many people why working for yourself is so much beneficial to certain characters like myself, where you are you're against the grain, and we're not part of the school system where it's all industrialized, and there's a whole new form coming in the past 100 years, and you've got to, if you're not with the grain, then you've got to be different, and to do different, think differently, to then know you're always going to do something differently to whatever friend circles you have, however your family outlay you. But sometimes being selfish does have the positives, and that's the choice I took, and I never regret that. I never will.
So that's where I say it tips into the balance of it with self-love. And a lot of people find it very difficult to make decisions for themselves. But if you're not making a decision for yourself, then who's going to make those decisions for you? Everybody else is going to push them onto you. You're going to live other people's lives if you're not sort of put those boundaries up and you protect them.
And it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because when you do, the more and more people you talk to, and the amount of times the sentence starts, I wish, then you think, okay, well, if you're not knocking something on the head or making that right turn, then you're going to be 50 to 60 years old, 70 years old, and say, I wish I started that. And you hear it all the time now, is don't take the risk and start it, or you'll never know until you start it. And that is crucial. And I wish people were telling me when I was younger of doing that. Luckily it happened okay, but there's a new generation of young entrepreneurs, young businesses that are going to reap the benefits of hopefully this episode of your podcast, and people like yourself and myself that are giving this information to us. They've got it on their phone to not go to the library and read a book, because I didn't do that, to go onto Instagram and find out that actually he's done it, she's done it, I can do it. And it gives them that power to just go on. And that's what so many people need.
And I think that the important message from my side is always about the compound effect, in terms of what you're doing throughout life will all compound towards eventually, wherever you're heading, those benefits, those learnings. You said you made mistakes. Again, they're learnings, they're good feedback elements that you can take on board. And I look back and I can see how there have been various threads throughout, consistently there. But it's difficult to see them when you're sort of in the frame, and it's hard to see them until you start reflecting and just really look at what it is you want to do. And I talk about this a lot, that I spend a lot of time existing. My goodness, I've been productive, but I haven't really been purposeful. And this is where that shift change is that you start to do purposeful, fulfilling work. And then it is a game changer.
Yeah. And if the whole world thought that, it would be a very different place to what it is right now. But you're 100% right. And yeah, going back to what I said, is once your kind of binary changes to yes and no, and doing the right thing or working for your why, how everything changes. Your dimensions change, your visions change. And I think I don't journal, but a lot of people do journaling. But however, if I do write things in the diary where I think I've made progress, or it isn't a good personal goal. And when you do look back at it, you're not caught up in, oh, I'm just doing it. You're actually seeing milestones of personal life, health life, family life actually exceeding when the why is in full working flow. Again, I'm not going to say mine is, but I'm definitely on that path. And fingers crossed, people start learning or listening to this podcast more, because I think a lot of people need to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because people will find it when they're ready to receive the information, when they're ready to take it on board. And it has been a case of an organic word of mouth recommendation. And then there have been people who've reached out and said, just listen to this particular episode and it's really hit home. And there's some various things I want to have a chat with you about. And that's fantastic, because I feel that you don't know what you don't know. And you it's not on your radar. You're not looking for it. You don't know. And this is the whole sort of concept about the why, is that you could be in a job that you enjoy, or you could be in a job that you don't enjoy, but you don't always connect why you're enjoying it or why you're not enjoying it with the fact that it's your values and that they're reflected in it. And I talk about the values being, if they're aligned, then because you go to work or you have a business because they are aligned to your needs and your values, whether you realize it or not. And when you find conflict, this is where you think, oh, what's happening here? Is it the boss? Is it the whatever? It's because you're not aligned with what you actually need anymore, and what you need as an individual, but you don't necessarily recognize that that's what it is. So that's where I sort of really advocate understanding what your values are. And it does come down to then being able to make your choices and your decisions so much easier, because is this aligned with my core values? Yes, no, then I don't need to do that area, or I don't need to make that decision. And that's fine. Or if yes, it's brilliant. But if you're working, and I don't want everyone to jump ship, but it's if you're working in a job and then they're not aligned with your values, you are going to be in conflict a lot of the time. So it's a case of finding what elements of that job are aligned with your values and enjoying those elements more, and just really finding that. So that will help in the interim, but then just being more aware of what it is you desire. And when you start saying I choose to instead of I need to, your language will start to change and you will change.
Yeah, but don't you think that something needs to happen for you to ask that, though? Because you don't naturally, you're so programmed into going to work at 9 and coming to 5, and you're in brackets happy. And my question is to you, what do you think that what happens to people? Where mine is, I know I came where I didn't know where I was. I needed to change. I wanted to, and I did it for the people I love, and I needed that. It came a time last year where I needed to say to myself, why? But some people may go on forever and never ask that.
And they may reach, their entire lifetime and never ask that question. And, that who's to say whether there's a right or wrong? If they were happy in that lifetime, that's fine. It's often, and listening to a lot of people who have come on the podcast, there has been some kind of trauma or event which has triggered them to reassess the way that they were living. So it could have been their own health or their own issue or a family member that has pulled them into a dual reality of what could actually be happening instead, and then reassessing it. And that's happened many times, that people have had that kind of epiphany or realization or trauma, as I said, that has kickstarted that journey, that questioning. Other people have found it through the world of personal development, and they've realized that there is an ulterior way of living, as opposed to just, as I said, existing. And then other people actually sort of naturally fall into a place which is of purpose and fulfillment, because they have pursued something that gives them great joy and gives them great value, because and they've naturally done that. So you kind of fall into different camps, really, and that's the different routes. But there is no one single route. If this is the eternal man's search for meaning, which is a book written in the 20th century, but we've had 2 millennia of and longer of people searching for that. You go back to the Stoics, you go back in time to sort of see these same questions being asked. Who am I? What am I here for? Why do we exist? And have all of those existential questions. It's been a lifelong journey. And the reason that as I said, there's no one solution is because we are all unique. And we all bring unique things to the world.
And when you said there's different steps, I think that mine came for, yes, I needed to change my life in terms of being the right individual, and kind of family members saying, right, you need to focus on this, because when it comes down to you've sold your business and financially you're okay, but you know that life's not going, or I didn't see myself here, and you're 100% right. Something big happened, and I wanted to make sure that, right, from now on, let me do the right thing for myself, and that's where mine happened. And otherwise, if you asked me what's your why, I would have laughed, and I would have said, what are you talking about? And now, the more and more in the last 18 months, I'm kind of telling people what's your why, because you need to know, and you do get two different aspects to it, because some people will say, they'll give you that what I said to you, and what my initial response was the family, kids, and stuff. But then when I ask, okay, but why? And I feel I'm being the Amy, and kind of be asking them. But yeah, I feel that some people they won't just come onto this podcast and do that. But yeah, if people are going through traumatic time, and you need to dive deep into your life, this is the question people need to ask. And I think it's helped me so much, and hence why I wanted to kind of give my 2 pence on where I have and how it's helping me. And again, not I don't think I'm around the finishing line yet, but we're going towards it. And I feel there's so many people that do need to ask this question.
And I don't think there is a finishing line, because it's a work in progress throughout life. And that, again, won't please a lot of people, because they want to have that finite sort of reach point, that destination. But actually, that's not what it's about. It's about going big. It's having that really big legacy concept that you are living, not leaving behind, but you are living it, and then it's going to continue thereafter. So for me, to pull this podcast together and think, well, who am I to do that? Well, it was like a case of, well, who am I not to? This is a question I have. I know that I will help one person by pulling it together at least, and that will be mission accomplished. And I know that there have been many more than just one person who has benefited from listening to the show. So yeah, keep asking the questions, and keep asking them of yourself and of those around you. And how, for me, it comes down to, how can we make a better world? How can we together create that? And what are the steps that I need to take? What's my responsibility? What is the awareness that I need to bring to the table?
Yeah, and if it's self-development and self-growth, then if you've got the willpower to keep going, then it can change as well, because you should have accomplished, if you're here to make a change, to help people and to fulfill your why, then it will be a bigger why, or your levels of self-development will always achieve greater things. So I think you always need to be on the case where legacy building is key, because if you think there's a finishing line, and people that I talk to that have retired, it's not a finishing line, because that's another phase. And where are you going to be taking it when you're at an older age? So 100% agree.
It's funny, because my mission started back in 2016, when I really went on my own personal journey, and it was triggered by needing to build a property portfolio to retire my husband, so that he didn't have to work in the city anymore. And I set the target for 3 years, and I missed it by 3 days, but I'm cool about that. But 3 years later, on the 3rd of October 2019, he did retire. Now, he retired to do 3 things. One was to spend more time with his parents and his family. And the other 2 were to make a bigger impact in sport, because he wanted to get involved in rugby and help young sort of progress through the ranks into top level rugby. And the 3rd one was to travel. Well, he had probably about 3 months before, obviously, we then hit COVID and the world changed. So he hasn't been able to do any of those 3 things that he really wanted to do. So we were having a discussion the other day. It's like, what is it now that you could do and prep and get ready for then sort of exploding in the areas that you want to make an impact? I mean, not exploding with his parents, but the other 2 areas. But yeah, so what can you do? And this is the thing, is just keep questioning, and what can you do if you are restricted? And for me, I took this business into a space that, actually worked really well with the restrictions. I've got a business now that I can work from home. People don't need to travel. We can do all of this online. It's fantastic. I can speak to people and coach them over Zoom as we're talking now. And it's fantastic. So there are always ways that you just need to think around the box about existing situations, but still fulfilling your aims, your mission. So it comes down to understanding your vision, understanding your mission, your values, your strengths, pulling them all together and who you're going to connect with in terms of the people, and then having that focus. And that's why I release a weekly newsletter, and every week it's a different focus, because it's just sort of honing in on one topic and laser sort of focused on that. And it's just, but having the breadth of different areas and understanding what is your focus, and that's why it's focus on why.
Yeah, and you got to have the optimism as well, because okay, everybody did go into lockdown, and you do see where people have really pushed on with their life and business, and people who are still moaning about the first lockdown. So being optimistic does carry or does fit in parallel with what you've said. And my business has, I'd say, doubled in the lockdown, because of we can reach our clients online. Social media marketing has been crazy when it comes to people learning themselves with our consultations, and as well as where we've been the first lockdown, we were doing lives and discussing similar to this, but in social media format and property development, and just discussing ways on how we can help. But how many IG lives have people done during lockdown is phenomenal. How many Zoom? Well, I didn't even know about Zoom until March the 23rd, 2020. So yeah, you've got to be optimistic and change to growth and adapt to change. That fits in with this cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, had I not spent the previous year working on my brand and marketing for another business, it wasn't for my own brand or focus on why at all. It was for the Property Vault. And then that didn't happen. It didn't progress because my business partner wanted to go in a different direction. But what I was able to do was, after a week of sort of disappointment and shock and what's happened here, I've just spent the last 18 months working towards this, was okay, fine.
Shifted.
Yeah, absolutely. And redirect that energy into a space that is more me, which is great, because property for me was definitely a fuel to get me to a certain point. And it still is an incredible sort of ability that I have to create freedom for the family and to create a portfolio for the family. But it is actually, one element of me. It's not everything I do. And then when I thought broader of, what is it I can help? My coaching skills come to the fore, the podcasting skills come to the fore. And that's where I can sort of combine the two and help people to create their own podcast, to create a life of purpose, and to help them build their property portfolio. So actually all three areas fold in really well into the coaching.
Yeah. And that I feel that if it's a case where you need to, something's going to happen in the future where we're going to have to shift our vision or direct it elsewhere. And I feel some certain people have got that in them, and you're ready for you. I always feel that I want to be ready for the next shift. Okay, they average a pandemic every 100 years, but I'm thinking more micro, and having the adapt. And it's a case where just having one income stream as well. So, both of us have a property portfolio, but then our main day to day is what we're doing now. Is that, well, you're doing your podcast, and when I'm doing it, I feel that you need to have everything. There's not just one thing. There's not just one road. A few doors need to be open, or a few avenues need to be open, to then make sure you're doing the right thing and doing what you like. And that's where a lot of it comes as well. Because again, going back to what you said, people are working 9 to 5 and they've not questioned themselves. Then it's a difficult task.
Yeah, being a portfolio business owner, comes with its responsibilities and the difficulties and the challenges, but also the benefits. And it's understanding, where I sit now and what I've accomplished and how that then translates to moving forward. And I've got two children, 18 and 15. They've been brought up in a very different dynamic from the way that I was brought up. And even, to be fair, in the last 5 years, they've now seen more of their dad in the last 2 years than they had in the previous 16. And, that's actually quite scary, because we didn't think that there was an alternative option. We didn't know that, but it was right there. It was available to us, but we didn't see it. So this is my mission, is to sort of make people aware of what alternatives are out there. It may not be that they're suitable for everyone, but it's just opening their eyes to different opportunities. And my word for this year is opportunity. And I just think that's a fitting one to focus on, is all of the different options that you have out there, and not just think you need to go onto that one sort of treadmill sort of scenario.
Yeah, because it's harder, and so I won't keep going on about it. But to have that property foundation is key to my life, and if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to just be that more risky and taking on that second business. And if anybody is listening and they are thinking about getting into the property sector, is go start learning about it, because if you do want the benefits of what you've just said, time, then delegation is key. But having that time, and especially if you've got young kids, I've got 2 kids under 6 years old, and if it wasn't for the property side of our lives, it'd be a case where I'm only seeing them on the weekends. And my biggest positive going back is about the property portfolio and what you can achieve.
Absolutely. Well, we're both in agreement there, as we have been for majority of our conversation today, Atish,
yeah.
if not all. How would people get in contact with you?
So I'm on pretty much every single social media marketing channel, because I have a social media marketing agency. However, I love Instagram and LinkedIn. So if you are on Instagram, please do follow me. It's my full name, which is Atish Parmar, and you can always find me on LinkedIn, which is Atish Parmar. And if you're wanting to discuss my journey and what I've just briefly touched on today's episode, then please do DM me. I am always on my Instagram DMs.
Well, I'll make sure I put those in the show notes, and also connect and follow the Social Connection podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the Social Connection podcast, our episodes are going to be back in 3 weeks' time, so middle of March. And whilst I'm on here, I did before, when we did have a chat, we're actually going through a massive rebrand with a new website. So we're looking forward to it. Things are going in the right direction for Metric Connect, and we help a lot of property people. So because of our background, and our podcast will be on, and hopefully I will get to have you on my show sooner or later.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you. So absolutely, please connect with Atish and follow him and subscribe to the podcast and download. So all good. Have you got, thank you. So I haven't said thank you. I'd just like to say thank you for coming onto the show today, Atish. I've really enjoyed.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a really lovely conversation. How would you like to finish this episode with a final few words from Atish?
My main take on just a couple of words is, do what you want to do. And in that way is think about yourself, and I'm going to say it, be slightly selfish in the way of your life, and vision it, and pretty much reverse engineer it, and find out what you want. Because when you want to do something you love, you like, and who you want to help, things will automatically work for you. And I'm not just saying that because a lot of people are saying it. I'm saying it because I'm in the middle of it, and I've seen both sides to it. And be what you want to be.
Thank you for listening to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlinson, and if you've enjoyed this episode, please leave me a 5-star Apple Podcast review. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook, and become a member of my inspiring, uplifting and positive Focus on Why Facebook group. I help people to focus on their why with clarity, uniting their passion with their purpose with a plan to create the life they truly desire. If you would like me to help you focus on your why, then please book a free 20-minute coaching call via calendly.com/Amy Rowlinson. And if you haven't already, please sign up for the Friday Focus weekly newsletter via my website, amyrowlinson.com. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.